Hi guys, Claudia Boleyn here, and today is my third video in my series following me through my BPD / emotionally unstable personality disorder / emotional intensity disorder. I got it right that time. Yeah, following me through that process. That sentence started somewhere, didn't finish where I thought it would, but anyway. Yeah, so I completed my third session, which is good. Yeah, I actually struggled quite a bit today with this one. I don't know why I was so nervous this morning, but there will be an emetophobia warning on this video, but in case you haven't seen it, consider this your emetophobia warning. Yeah, I got really sick this morning, so when I get nervous, I get like physical symptoms, so I have to go to the toilet really badly, and I get like physically sick. Like, that didn't used to happen to me when I was younger, but over the past couple of years, I find myself being sick all the time. So whenever I'm anxious, it makes me physically like vomit. So that was happening this morning and I just really did not feel good. So I was really proud of myself for going, because I think maybe in the past I might have thought, okay, I'm being sick and I don't feel well, and that means I'm ill, and it means I can't go, and it means if I do go then I'll be stuck there and I'll be ill and it'll be terrible. But in fact, I used what I learned last week, which is about my filters. So one of my filters from last week, you can watch the video on my channel. You can't put links anymore, but if you just look in the BPD vlog section of my channel, you'll be able to see last week's. But I learned that one of my main filters was vulnerability to harm and illness, which means that I feel like I'm gonna get sick and things are gonna hurt me, and I've learnt that through maybe life experience, and it's like a protection thing. But it actually stops me from doing things which I could benefit from. It's like the fear of doing the thing, it stops me from enjoying my life and from having good opportunities, so I kind of cut myself off. But yeah, so I kind of conquered that a little bit today. I thought about it and I thought, well, if I do happen to get ill and I get really weird and panicky when I'm there, at least I'm among other people who understand it, and like the people doing the group, we're specifically there for that issue. So I think maybe it was a bit unique. I don't know if I would have still gone and done something if it was something else. Hopefully as I go through the process, I'll feel more confident to be able to do that on days like that. But yeah, I was really proud of myself because I could have cancelled it because I was really panicky, and like my hands were sweating in the car on the way there, and my grandma and granddad were driving me. And I was like making conversation in the car, but my hands were sweating, and I do this thing where I kind of like rub my hands when I'm really, really panicky, and I kind of feel each finger in turn, and I don't know why I do it. And I was doing that, and I could feel my hands were clammy, and I was thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna be sick, I feel ill. But actually, once I had got there, I think for the first 10 minutes I was so panicky, but I was kind of keeping it inside. I just get like my foot starts moving and I can't sit still in my chair. But yeah, I just gradually started to kind of relax, and there are a couple of moments in the session where I felt a bit bad, but I kind of stuck with it, and yeah, I feel quite proud of myself, and I think I can kind of take that going forward. This is a bit of a lesson for me, so that I know there's going to be weeks where I do feel very stressed, or maybe weeks where I'll get upset and feel like, oh, I don't want to go back, but I just have to push myself to do it. So this week, that's enough about me, I say in the vlog about myself. This week we were learning something called distancing. So basically there's 5 different, I don't know, this is the first week, but there's 5 different things you can do to try and help yourself kind of come out of that state if you're getting like really emotional. And so one of them is distancing. So it's kind of learning to accept the feelings, because obviously if you've got what I have, or you have traits of it, you have really extreme emotions to like an abnormal degree. So people around you might think that you're being dramatic. I know that when I was growing up, I think my family used to think I was dramatic until they realised that I had a mental illness, and I realised I had a mental illness, and then all of a sudden it was like, maybe she wasn't a drama queen all along. Maybe she was ill. Since then it's all been good. But yeah, I think people think that we are like overreacting and being dramatic, but what people don't understand about this disorder is that it actually does give you like more strong, the emotions are more strong with this disorder, like that is a fact. It's like a different level. You try and talk to someone who doesn't have it about the lows and the highs of this disorder, and they just think, oh yeah, I've been sad, I've been happy. And it's like, you don't understand. You really don't understand. I think people who do understand are people with bipolar disorder. People with bipolar often get mixed up with us, and some of us have both disorders actually, but yeah, people mix them up because of the initials BPD. But I know if you talk to people with bipolar, then that's where I've found the most common ground, because I feel like in some ways they're similar in terms of the intensity of emotion, but with, I keep calling it BPD, I need to call it EID, but with EID, they're kind of shorter and you're up and down all the time in a day and you get triggered off by things, whereas I think with bipolar, my understanding of it is that you go through like days of a high and days of a low, and it's much more sort of constant. But yeah, the intensity is the same. Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent. So some of these techniques for distancing I already do use, because I did cognitive behavioural therapy before, and also I watch a lot of ASMR, which I really recommend. Even if you're not someone who gets ASMR in terms of getting those tingles in your scalp. If you don't know what ASMR is, that probably sounds weird. They're relaxation videos, and for like something like 10% of the population, they give you this weird, lightheaded, pleasant, relaxed feeling, like as if you're getting like a massage or someone playing with your hair or something, you know? That's what it feels like. Look it up, I recommend it. You can find them on YouTube for free and they're great. And some good people are, for example, Whispers Red ASMR and Heather Feather. They're good, safe ASMR artists and their content's really good. But because of that, I've already started doing some of this, because lots of ASMR videos cover these kind of techniques. But basically it's how we calm ourselves down. There's kind of two elements, I thought, today. They didn't say there's two elements, this is what I think. There's the calming yourself down, but then there's also the understanding the feeling and not denying the feeling. Because I feel like, for me, I have problems with dissociation. Like when I'm very, very stressed, I dissociate, and it's because of stuff from when I was younger. If things are really bad, it's like I leave my body, and I kind of did that when I was younger, like as a protection thing. I just kind of left, which sounds weird if you don't get it, but if you do, you know what I mean. And so now I still struggle with that. So if I go into like a high stress or intensity place, and things are too much, I just whoop, I go. So that's no good. I need to be able to sit with the emotions and accept them and not deny them. But at the same time, we somehow have to not let the emotions overwhelm us. There was a piece of writing that we read this week where someone likened having this disorder to like being in a storm. So you've got all these like thoughts and feelings and emotions swirling round, and they're kind of encouraging each other really unhealthily, and it's getting worse and worse, and it's like a whirlwind, which I thought was a good description. It does feel a bit like a tornado or something, but I find it really hard to kind of sit with my feelings, and I think other people with this get that as well. It's that feeling of, it's just so much, it's so painful, and I've spoken about this before, but until you've had like a BPD high or low, you just don't understand. You don't get it. Like when you feel completely out of control of yourself, like you are just out of control. And like when I get like the like super highness, I feel like the actual, like I feel like my head's gonna split open and I just can't move fast enough. And like I say, it's in some ways it's similar to people who have mania when they have bipolar, but it's just this awful feeling, and you can't sleep, and it's just, oh, it's agitation, and it's not fun. People think when you're high it's gonna be happy, but it's not really happy most of the time. It's agitation, and it's awful. It's like the world's going too slow, why can't it catch up? And the lows, I mean, when you've got emotional intensity disorder, the lows are like suicidal lows. So, and that can happen several times a day. So not only is it exhausting, but imagine going from up there to down there in a day. Like, it's really intense, and it's hard to sit with those feelings. So that's what we're kind of trying to start learning to do, to be able to distance ourselves, but not to the extent we dissociate, and to ground ourselves, but not to the extent that we drown in it. Something that it says in our sort of paperwork for today, I say paperwork, they give us like printouts, is you are not your actions. Your actions may be good or bad, but they do not make you good or bad. This is just something I wanted to talk about because that's important. Like for me, that's really helpful for me, because I am really harsh on myself. Because like I said before, one of my filters is being a perfectionist, so having these unrelenting standards. And sometimes I feel like I'm the worst person in the world and I'm bad, and you know, I've said before that I just want to delete myself from life, and I feel like embarrassed to be alive and like I shouldn't be here and like I'm a burden, and it's really, really intense. And so if I do something wrong, if I make a mistake, if I do something mean, then I punish myself so much, and I almost feel like, oh, there it is, confirmation, I'm a dreadful, awful person, I am evil, I should be dead. That is, that sounds extreme, but that is the thought process. So it's kind of very helpful for me to think of things in terms of actions. And also I think that this goes wider than talking about mental health. I think it goes for just like society in general and the way that we look at people and things. I think that people aren't good or bad. It's not that someone is a good or a bad person. You're not inherently a good person. You're not inherently a bad person. You're not born like that. You are the choices you make. So you need to be accountable for the things you do, but you can also make things better. You can right the wrongs you've made and become a better person, I truly believe. And I believe that every single day we have the option to be a good or a bad person, or to do good or bad things. So it's a choice. So in some ways that's really empowering, because if you have got this thing in your mind where you feel like you're inherently like a bad person or a selfish person, you have the power, you're in charge of your actions, you can be the sort of person you want to be. So I probably haven't described that right, but I really need to think like that, because I do totally just wish to kill myself when I do things wrong sometimes, or like if I snap at someone, if I'm rude to someone, oh my gosh, the guilt is so extreme. Even though, I mean, I'm a big believer in like apologies. So like, for example, if I've had an argument with Dan, Dan is my brother if you don't watch the channel. I love Dan so much, he's like my best friend, he's like the best person ever, he's my little brother. He's bigger than me, but he's my little brother. And like, we rarely argue, but if we ever do argue, like, it takes me like 20 minutes and instantly I'm like, oh my god, I need to give Dan a hug, I need to apologise for whatever nasty thing I said. I feel so bad. And even after like I've apologised, I feel like this intense guilt, like to a kind of unhealthy degree. Like, I obsess over things. I obsess over small mistakes I make. So I will make a tiny mistake in the day and I will not be able to sleep for embarrassment and humiliation. And it's all kind of the same thing, you know? It's this hypercritical lens that I'm looking at myself through, which is, I'm just dooming myself to failure, because no person is perfect. And I feel like I'm always trying so hard to be a good person and to be a perfect person, and it's okay to not always be that. As long as when you're not that, you realise and you change and you make yourself better. This is totally off topic, but when I was younger, apologies weren't a thing. I used to think it was like a weakness to apologise, because like, I wasn't used to getting apologies. So if someone was horrible, like, I just wouldn't get an apology, ever. So I didn't really see that as normal. And it was only when I started doing therapy that I realised that, oh, it's not humiliating and terrible, or I'm trying to, you know, I still have some issues with it, but I'm someone who apologises a lot now if I think I've done something wrong, because it's so important that it's a strength to be able to apologise for something. Through this therapy, I'm slowly starting to realise how my whole life and my whole worldview is basically formed by these, like, my perfectionism has messed up a lot of stuff in my head, actually. And it kind of comes into areas that you wouldn't even, like, think it would. Like, it's weird when you start thinking about it. Another one is, you can handle it when things go wrong. So this is, you know, you're using the skill of distancing when you can handle it when things go wrong. And at the moment I feel like I can't really. I'm really poor at that. When things go really badly wrong, I fall to pieces. I feel like I'm a child. I feel like a failure, and I kind of shut myself away, and I feel like, oh, everything's ruined, and then that kind of ruins things for myself, you know, because I'm already counting myself out. So I am getting slightly better at that. I'm getting better at being more on top of things, and I think that doing my open uni degree is helping, because I'm having to take a lot of my life into my own hands. So, you know, if something has to be done, I have to do it. If I have an issue, I need to contact my tutor. And so far I've been pretty good at that, and it's kind of helping me in other aspects of my life. There is one here that I don't get. It says, you know you are using the skill of distancing when you know you can't predict the future. I mean, I'm pretty sure I already know I can't predict the future. You know you are using the skill of distancing when you are feeling negative emotions and know it is possible to live through them without needing to numb them. So yeah, I still need to work on that in a big way, because I do feel like I have to like numb them or escape from them. I haven't mastered just sitting with my feelings. And I know they say you just need to, when you feel like a huge emotion, you're supposed to acknowledge it and accept it and not judge yourself for feeling it, and just let it happen, let yourself feel it, and then think about it later. But I still find that really hard. Like, it's really easily said, but I struggle with that. So that's kind of something I want to try this week. I want to really focus on that. It says here, just look at the world around me. Don't judge it. Don't criticise it. Don't draw conclusions about it. Don't try to change it or control it. Just look at it and accept it. I think it's important to stress as well, this means in terms of your emotion and your responses. I mean, I feel like in wider society, obviously, you can't control it, but you should try to change it. So there are some issues when we're going through this course where I feel like in some places I feel like it's too simplistic, which, you know, might suit some people, but I tend to look at things through, it's probably I don't know if it's a flaw or if it's a good thing, but I really tend to look at things like, I really zoom in on things and I think about stuff too much. So yeah, I do think some of this is a bit simplistic, to be honest. There are some instances in this where I feel like the language is almost blaming in some instances, which is a bit frustrating, because I don't think that's particularly helpful. But yeah, but this is very good advice in terms of emotional intensity disorder, obviously, because like when it says don't try to change it or control it, you can't change the bad things that happen in life always. You know, you can't wake up one morning and guarantee that nothing terrible is going to happen in the day. Like, for example, I stress about things happening to the people I care about. You know, I do stress about those things, and I feel like I know there's no point in that, because it's not going to stop anything happening. Me panicking about things and worrying and anticipating is not gonna, I can't change any of that stuff. And in some ways, I suppose I do almost get, I don't know how to word it, but I remember when I was younger, when I was little, I used to write letters to God. I was never religious, by the way, but I'd got to a point where I thought, well, I need help, and if I write bargains to God, then maybe I'll be okay. So I think I still have these letters. I don't know where they are, but I just used to write them, like, every night, letters to God, like, desperate letters, like, please help me, God, like, in 100% sincerity, which is odd, which is an example of the issues I still have in a different way, I suppose. You know, it's that idea that if I bargain enough, I can change things, you know, if I bargain, then things will be alright, won't they? But you can't make life like that. You can't make life perfect. You can't stop the bad things from happening. But what you can change is your reaction to it and your response. That's all we're in control of. We are only in control of our response. We're not in control of stuff that happens. For example, I suffer from severe emetophobia. It's got slightly better now, but it has been extremely bad. So it's a fear of illness and sickness. And I've understood now that it's actually to do with these other issues. It's all the same, really. It's a fear of, with me, I used to be terrified of being sick and vomiting, which I'm still scared of illness now, but I can be sick more, because I am sick quite often now, unfortunately. But it's a fear of being out of control, of not having control over your body, of not being able to stop it. I have this deep, deep fear of not having control of my own body, and it just, the idea of being ill, like having something in control of your body, just absolutely terrified me. And it was something that you couldn't help and you couldn't control, because no one can control it. Like, we all get sick sometimes, you know, there's no avoiding it. And I used to get so upset, and I wouldn't eat. I mean, I still don't sometimes. I don't eat if I've got no one with me, because I get scared I'm going to get ill on my own. I do need to fix that, definitely. But you know, I used to panic. I used to sit up all night, genuinely, because I was so scared of it creeping up on me and me waking up in the night ill and not being prepared. And what did I do? All I ended up doing was being up all night, not sleeping, so I would actually feel ill the next day because I was so tired, which then convinced myself I was ill because I felt bad and tired, and I probably made myself ill. So it's kind of like that. I don't know if I described that at all well. I'll only know when I go back in the edit. So it recommends here that to get that distance between you and your emotions and that emotional storm that's coming, you have to admit to yourself that it's coming. So it says here, for example, I have an illness, I'm not a bad person. These thoughts, urges and emotions are just my illness. Which is important, and I find really helpful because I now understand myself to an extent where if I feel super suicidal, for example, sometimes I'm able to say to myself, I know I feel suicidal right now, but I also know that this is a symptom of my illness. I know that in all likelihood this will pass, and fairly soon. And that has actually helped me to not do things like cutting or, you know, even making an attempt or something like that. I mean, it really does help to be able to identify this, and this is why I think it's so important that people are taken seriously with their mental health and they get help. People say, oh, why would you want a label? It's not about wanting a label, but once you understand what you have, you feel validated, you realise that it helps you to help yourself to get better and cope better, because you can understand, okay, so these are the issues I have, okay, how can I counter those? If someone is unaware of their issues and people are denying there's a problem when clearly the person has an issue, a lot of families kind of just don't want it to be a thing. I know my family did not want it to be a thing, so it was kind of like denial land for a little while. Like, I think they just didn't want that, the stigma, and they didn't want it for me, but unfortunately some of us are mentally ill, and we can be alright. We can be fine. But it helps us far more to have it acknowledged so that we can then help ourselves, you know? It's not this, oh, look at the drama queens getting diagnosed for fun. It's, look at these people who are understanding themselves to an extent that they are trying to understand what is wrong, and they are then going to professionals who can then tell them what is the problem, and they can then take the steps to make themselves better and make life better and to be more functional. Before I understood that I have BPD, or to a lesser extent anxiety and depression, when I was getting these out of control suicidal feelings, it was worse and more dangerous because I didn't know what was wrong. I just thought, this is me, this is a terrible, weird flaw in me, it's a fault in me, there's something terribly wrong, I should be dead. Whereas now, I have the knowledge that I can say to myself, I know I feel suicidal, don't act on it, girl. Don't do it, because it's part of your illness. I mean, I describe it as, sometimes my brain tries to kill me. That's how I describe it. Like, it's not like a suicide almost, you know, it's not what I actually want. Sorry, the lights come on at the weirdest time. The universe is trying to brighten me in this dark, dark subject. But if you know that that suicidal ideation is part of your illness, something other people get, and something you will then get through once you have a name for it, and you know, actually, this is normal for someone like me, it's fine, this is going to happen, that person is then less likely to act on it. I genuinely feel like I'm not describing things particularly well today, so I'm really sorry if this is a total mess. So a couple of techniques we learned were some relaxation breathing exercises, which I actually do quite a lot because, like I say, I watch ASMR. But there's 3 different ones we learned. So there's the square method, where you kind of visualise a square, and you breathe in for one side, you hold it for another side, you breathe out for the one side, and then you hold it again. So, but you have to kind of do what's right for you, because we were doing some in the session, and the guy was counting for us. Like, he was actually doing a breathe in for 4, breathe out for 6, but that did not work for me, and I get this is how ridiculous I am. I get stressed, like on ASMR videos and things, when they're counting the breaths, and I feel like, oh no, I can't reach that number, I can't breathe, and then it's you need to do what's right for you. There's the 4, 7, 8 they told us, which is you breathe in for 4, you hold for 7, and then you breathe out for 8. I don't think that one works for me very well. Like, I can't hold for 7. I do this quite a lot, so I know my body, and also because I sing as well, I understand about breathing and that sort of thing. So It's better for you if you have anxiety and you're having a panic attack to breathe like through your diaphragm. So you know that feeling when you breathe in and it makes your stomach kind of puff out? That's a good breath for this kind of thing. So you breathe in and then there's also the 7-11 method, which is just breathing in for 7 and breathing out for 11. But I was always taught, my mum used to tell me to do this because I've always struggled with emetophobia, so feeling like I'm ill. I often get symptoms of feeling ill as well because of my panic attacks and because I get nervous and things like that. So my mum's always told me to breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth. So you breathe in less through your nose and then extend it when you breathe out through your mouth. And they said today that apparently that has it's genuinely a way to talk to your body and to actually calm yourself down. Like, apparently it actually works. Sometimes I used to think it was just like a psychological thing where, you know, you think it's going to work, so it's like a placebo effect. But they told me today that apparently it's real and it actually does trigger off relaxation and calm. So I need to do that more. So this week was helpful for me because they're not all new ideas, you know. I do know about, I wouldn't have called it distancing, but when I did CBT, I learned certain relaxation techniques, and actually that was what got me into ASMR because I was told to watch like meditation and relaxation videos on YouTube, and that's how I found ASMR, which I love. I need to make some more ASMR videos soon actually. Maybe I should, using these techniques. But I need to get used to putting these into practice a lot because I feel like I only use them as a last resort, whereas I need to be kind of seeing these things before they happen, because what they were saying today is that it feels like when you have these huge emotions that it's sudden and it's there, and of course it feels like that when you're having it, but actually we need to learn to identify our triggers, so to know when something is starting. Like it's really hard to see that, but I'm hoping that will become clearer to me, and that's when you get it. You have to get it before it grows and takes you over completely, because it will take you over otherwise. So yeah, I am going to be doing a lot of deep breathing this next week. I'm actually due to Grandma and Grandad are taking us and some family members out for a meal, so it's not particularly far, and I can only travel with a family member, which I've spoken to you about before, which is very difficult, you know, in terms of socialising. It's lucky for me that Dan is so close to me and is my age, because we can socialise a lot, but that's difficult. So we have to go on a car journey, and it's my immediate family, so it's my mum and my brother and my grandma and my granddad, and they're all people I feel very comfortable with, but it's going to be a struggle. So I am going to use that as a learning experience. So actually this session has helped me kind of almost feel excited about that, because I'm nervous about it anyway. I'm really nervous about, it's the travel. I'm not nervous about seeing the family members at all, because we're going to see some other family members, like that's going to be nice. It's the travel. So yeah, I'm going to practice my breathing and use it as a learning technique and a learning opportunity. And if it doesn't go well and I panic, I'm going to use that as another learning opportunity, because I'm going to say, okay, well that didn't go well, but next time it might. What can I do differently? I need to start thinking like that. I really need to start thinking of this as an ongoing process, and I imagine it will probably be something that I'm doing for the rest of my life, to kind of adjust how I think about things, but hopefully these thoughts will become more automatic in the future. Okay, I've rambled for long enough. I'm going to go. This is going to be a hideously long video, and it's also going to be, I don't know how much sense it's going to make. I'm probably going to have to edit it quite heavily, but yeah, it was a good session today. So I love you loads. Whoa, look at the time. I love you loads, and I will see you really soon. Okay, love you. Bye.